Dr. Zentalk's 7 eyes focus simultaneously on the molecular scanner's display, each optical organ processing different spectral wavelengths of the data streaming across the quantum matrix. The human specimen lay unconscious on the bioanalysis table, completely unaware that it had just become the subject of the most comprehensive genetic scan the hegemony had ever performed. The human research vessel Endeavour had been captured 3 cycles ago while conducting what their primitive species called deep space exploration. Captain Sarah Chen and her crew of 47 had put up a surprisingly fierce resistance before being overwhelmed by hegemony forces. Now they served as perfect subjects for the Genetic Catalog Project, an initiative to document the DNA of every species in the galaxy before the final sterilization protocols began. Zentalk prided himself on his scientific objectivity. As chief geneticist of the hegemony's Third Fleet, he had catalogued over 2,000 species across 47 star systems. Each scan followed the same routine: extract genetic material, analyze chromosomal structure, identify biological potential, classify threat level, and recommend sterilization priority. It was methodical work that served the greater purpose of galactic purification. The preliminary scans of human DNA had shown nothing unusual. Carbon-based, dual helix structure, typical mammalian evolutionary patterns. Their technological development suggested a young species, perhaps 10,000 cycles old at most. They posed no threat to the hegemony's dominion. But as the deep scan initiated, something changed. The quantum scanner began detecting genetic markers that shouldn't exist. Dormant sequences buried deep within the human chromosomes, hidden beneath layers of what their scientists called junk DNA. As the analysis penetrated deeper, Zentalk's confidence began to waver. The genetic markers were ancient, impossibly ancient. His manipulator appendages trembled as he cross-referenced the data against the hegemony's genetic database, a collection spanning 50 million cycles of galactic history. The match that appeared on his screen made all 7 eyes dilate with terror. The markers were Kelvarani. Zentalk stumbled backward from the scanner, his respiratory sacs contracting in rapid panic cycles. The Kelvarani had been extinct for over 2 million galactic cycles. They were the reason the hegemony existed, the reason the sterilization protocols had been established, the reason entire star systems were regularly purged of emerging life. The Kelvarani had once ruled the galaxy with abilities that transcended physical law. They could manipulate matter at the quantum level with thought alone, travel instantaneously across vast distances, and worst of all, they could evolve their own genetics in real time. They had been gods among mortals until something had caused their sudden disappearance. And now their genetic signature was embedded in human DNA. Zentalk activated his emergency communicator, his voice cracking with urgency. Fleet Commander Yorth, immediate priority override. We have a Class Omega genetic threat. The holographic image of Fleet Commander Yorth materialized, his massive frame dominating the communication field. Explain yourself, geneticist. Your scan was of a primitive carbon-based species. Sir, the humans. They carry Kelvarani markers. Dormant but present. They're not a new species, they're descendants. A silence fell over the communication that lasted several heartbeats. Yorth's expression shifted from irritation to disbelief, to growing horror. That's impossible. The Kelvarani were completely eradicated. We made certain of it. Zentalk transmitted the genetic data, watching as Yorth's biomonitors registered increasing stress levels. The markers are heavily suppressed, buried beneath millions of cycles of evolutionary drift. But they're there, and sir, some of them show signs of activation potential. On the bio table, Captain Sarah Chen stirred slightly in her induced unconsciousness. A small cut on her hand from the genetic extraction began to heal at a rate that should have been impossible for human physiology. Neither alien noticed as her cells reorganized themselves with perfect efficiency. How many humans exist in their population? Yorth's voice carried the weight of impending catastrophe. Approximately 8 billion on their homeworld, with scattered colonies throughout their local star cluster. Yorth's expression darkened. 8 billion potential Kelvarani. If even a fraction of them achieve activation. He didn't finish the sentence. Both aliens understood the implications. The Kelvarani at the height of their power had been unstoppable. A single activated individual could destroy entire fleets with a thought. They had reshaped reality itself, according to their will, created life and destroyed it on whims. And worst of all, they had been absolutely incapable of coexisting with other forms of consciousness. "Sir, there's more," Zentok continued, his voice barely stable. "The humans have been experiencing what they called evolutionary pressure for the past several thousand cycles. Wars, environmental challenges, technological advancement at an unprecedented rate. It's almost as if something has been pushing them toward activation." Sarah Chen's eyes opened. Not the groggy awakening of someone emerging from sedation, but the clear, immediate awareness of consciousness returning to full power. Her brown eyes reflected the laboratory lights, but beneath that reflection was something else, patterns of light that seemed to move independently, like stars being born and dying in accelerated time. She sat up on the bio table with fluid grace, the restraints simply falling away as their molecular bonds lost cohesion. Both aliens froze as she turned to look at them, her expression curious rather than afraid. "You're running genetic scans," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that shouldn't be possible with human vocal cords. "Looking for something specific, aren't you?" Zentok's 7 eyes tracked her movements as she stood, noting how space seemed to bend slightly around her form. You're activating." Sarah tilted her head, and for a moment, her features seemed to shift, becoming something ancient and terrible and beautiful. "Activating? Is that what you call it when we remember what we are?" Fleet Commander Yorth's hologram flickered as quantum interference began disrupting the communication field. "Initiate immediate sterilization protocol. Full fleet bombardment of the human homeworld. Do it now." But Sarah simply smiled, and when she did, every piece of technology in the laboratory began to resonate with harmonics that rewrote their fundamental operating principles. "You're too late," she whispered, and her whisper somehow reached across space to every human in every colony, awakening genetic memories that had slept for millions of years. "We're coming home." Across the galaxy, on a small blue planet called Earth, 8 billion humans paused in their daily routines as ancient knowledge suddenly bloomed in their minds. And for the first time in 2 million galactic cycles, the Kelvarani began to remember who they really were.